Without further ado, I want to take a minute. You've seen this person already, dynamic speaker, powerful, energetic, right? I want to tell you a little bit about him before I bring him up here. I met Chris White some time ago, about a year ago now. I don't know how long ago it was. He wound up coming through different funnels. And some of you guys, think I might have like a cold marketing system. In other words, it's very low touch from me. It's actually just the opposite. I look for action takers, all right? Let me say this. I don't look at people based on the potential they have, because everyone's potential is limitless. I look at people based on the actions they take, because that's the only thing that's going to help them capitalize on that potential. Does that make sense? So when people take actions within my marketing funnel, I'm able to identify, based on those actions they took, who the movers and the shakers are more likely to be. I still guess wrong, but sometimes I'm right. So when this person came through my funnel and I got note of him, I went and looked at his pages, and they were awful. They were terrible. But I saw him, and I knew that guy. That guy's got it. He's got it. And he doesn't even know he's got it. He doesn't even know what to do with what he's got, but he's got it. It's so close. And I said, I got to talk to that guy. So I talked to him. Wound up having a conversation with him, and he joined one of our coaching programs. Had a conversation with him, and I told that person who brought them to me, I think it was Jamie. Jamie, did you bring in Chris? Or anyways, one of our team members did. Might have been Nick. And I knew right away. I mean, this guy's a firecracker. He's so energetic. He shoots videos, and it's just so much raw power, energy. And at first you think, that can't be legit. Who really is like that? He's totally that way. It's awesome. I want you guys, when you hear from this platinum student, I want you to take note of the day and time you saw him, because you will see much bigger things from him as time goes on. And there's no doubt about that. This is absolutely one of the most powerful entrepreneurs I've ever had the privilege of working with. He gave me an incredible introduction beforehand, but I can't say enough great things about him, my friend, and one of my favorite people in the world, Mr. Chris White.
Let's go! Party rock is in the house tonight. Everybody just have a good time.
Am I running this? Okay. Well, what I'm about to share with you over the course of the next 10 minutes is going to be the most important message you hear all weekend long. True. If you don't get what I'm about to share with you, you're going to struggle, and you're going to struggle, and you're going to struggle, just like I did. True. In fact, if you're struggling right now, I'm 99% confident that it's because you don't really get what I'm about to talk to you about. True. So I want to encourage you to pay attention. Now, before I talk to you about my message, I want to start off by saying this. I take zero credit for anything that I'm about to share with you, because everything that I'm going to share with you, I learned from Greg Gomez III as part of his 10K Platinum coaching program. In fact, I'll go one step further, and I'll tell you that if this was the only thing that I learned from Greg Gomez, it was worth at least 10 times what I paid to become part of that program. So I want to encourage you to pay attention. And I'm going to start off with the story. John Blanchard stood up from the bench, straightened his army uniform, and studied the crowd of people making their way through Grand Central Station. He looked for the girl whose heart he knew, but whose face he didn't. The girl with the rose. His interest in her had begun 13 months before in a Florida library. Taking a book off the shelf, he found himself intrigued. Not with the words of the book, but with the notes penciled in the margin. The soft handwriting reflected a thoughtful soul and an insightful mind. In the front of the book, he discovered the previous owner's name, Miss Hollis Maynow. With time and effort, he located her address. She lived in New York City. He wrote her a letter introducing himself and inviting her to correspond. The next day, he was shipped overseas for service in World War II. During the next year and 1 month, the two grew to know each other through the mail. Each letter was a seed falling on a fertile heart. A romance was budding. Blanchard requested a photograph, but she refused. She felt that if he really cared, it wouldn't matter what he looked like. When the day finally came for him to return from Europe, they scheduled their first meeting. 7 p.m. at Grand Central Station in New York. "You'll recognize me," she wrote, "by the red rose I'll be wearing on my lapel." So at 7 o'clock, he was in the station looking for a girl whose heart he loved, but whose face he had never seen. I'll let Mr. Blanchard tell you what happened. A young woman was coming toward me, her figure long and slim. Her blonde hair lay back in curls from her delicate ears. Her eyes were blue as flowers. Her lips and chin had a gentle firmness. And in her pale green suit, she was like springtime come alive. I started toward her, entirely forgetting to notice that she was not wearing a rose. As I moved, a small, provocative smile curved her lips. "Going my way, sailor?" she murmured. Almost uncontrollably, I made one step toward her. And then I saw Hollis Maynow. She was standing almost directly behind this girl. A woman well past 40. She had graying hair tucked under a worn hat. She was more than plump, her thick ankled feet thrust into her low-heeled shoes. The girl in the green suit was walking away quickly. I felt as though I was split in two. So keen was my desire to follow her, yet so deep was my longing for the woman whose spirit had truly companioned me and upheld my own. And there she stood. Her pale, plump face was gentle and sensible. Her gray eyes had a warm and kindly twinkle. I did not hesitate. My fingers gripped a small, worn blue leather copy of the book that was to identify me to her. This would not be love. But it would be something precious, something perhaps even better than love, a friendship for which I had been and must ever be grateful. I squared my shoulders and saluted and held out the book to the woman, even though while I spoke, I felt choked by bitterness and disappointment. I'm Lieutenant John Blanchard, and you must be Miss Maynow. I am so glad you could meet me. May I take you to dinner? The woman's face broadened with an intolerant smile. I don't know what this is about, son, she answered. But the young lady in the green suit, who just went by, begged me to wear this rose on my coat. She said if you were to ask me out to dinner, I should tell you that she is waiting for you in the big restaurant across the street. She said it was some kind of test. And so as I hear that story, I'm reminded of the fact that all of us in this room are faced with the same kind of test in our business every single day. Do we choose our values, or do we choose the attractive things that we know don't serve us? How many of you here have ever been tempted to surrender what you know you value, to chase after the attractive things that you know in your gut just don't serve your highest calling? Anybody? Let me share some of mine with you. Laziness. It's very attractive. Lack of exercise. Lack of eating healthy. How about the choice to play it safe in order to protect yourself from the fear of failure? That's a pretty attractive one. How about the choice to take the easy way out? Or how about this one that's gotten me before? How about the choice to choose the easy money play? Has anyone in here ever been caught up like I have in joining a company because you just thought it was going to be the quick and easy money play? Right. Here's the bottom line. When you honor your value, you become valuable. Let me say this again, because this is big. When you honor your value, you become valuable. And you get everything you want in life. Just like Lieutenant John Blanchard did, and just like Miss Hollis Maynell did, the woman with the red rose. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you in here already know this to be true in your gut? How many of you in here get super frustrated like I did because you're challenged to find your true value, the value that you know the market will pay you for? How many of you would like to know the 4 steps that I've learned by watching, not by listening to, but by watching Greg Gomez build his business over the last year? How many of you would like to know the 4 steps that I learned that will allow you to do anything that you want inside of your business? Step number 1, you have to know your values. My friends, I want to encourage you to live your life by design, not by default. I want to encourage you, before you go to bed tonight, to get out a piece of paper, get your computer out, and I want to encourage you to do a brainstorming activity with yourself. I want to encourage you to answer this statement for yourself. I value, and then fill in the blank. I want to encourage you to get 10 to 20 words. I value, fill in the blank with a word. Integrity, for example. And then what I want you to do is I want you to jump over to Google, and in the Google search bar, I want you to put down the word define, and then the word you chose. Even if you think you already know what that word means, I want you to go look up the definition of that word, and I want you to pay attention to how it makes you feel. Remember we talked about how champion performers understand that emotion empowers them to tap into higher levels of intelligence? I want you to pay attention to how that word makes you feel when you're reading the definition. Now, if it makes you feel powerful, there's a pretty good sign that that's something you value. So that's step number 1, know your values. Step number 2, you have to live your values. You have to make the choice every single day to live your values. Why? Because when you honor your values, you become valuable. So I want to encourage you tomorrow morning to get up, and I want you to look at your top 3 values that you came up with in this exercise. I want you to look yourself in the mirror, and I want you to say, I value, and then say the word. And I want you to pay attention to how you feel. I want you to pay attention to the power that you have inside you. That's step number 2. You have to make the decision to live your values. Step number 3. I want to encourage you to exercise the courage to surrender the things in your life that don't serve your highest values, so that you can make space in your life for the things that do. Now, for some of you, that means perhaps walking away from a relationship. It might mean making the courageous decision to stop paying attention to people who are trying to give you advice that you know don't serve you well. Or it may be doing what I had to do, which led me to Greg Gomez, which is walking away from a six-figure business that I had built with 2 partners because it wasn't serving me. So I want to encourage you to find the courage to surrender whatever it is in your life that's not serving your highest value so that you can make room for the things that do. That's step number 3. Step number 4, my friends, if you want to be a lion, you have to train with lions. This is the most important of the 4 steps. Why? Because a true lion can help protect you, can help hold you accountable to those first 3 steps. If you want to train with lions, if you want to be a lion, you have to train with lions. Albert Einstein once said that our problems that we created with our thinking cannot be solved with the level of thinking in which they were created. Has anyone heard this? So let me ask you a question. Whose thinking was being used when your problems were created? Did the light bulb go off? If you want to be a lion, you got to train with lions. Now, let me ask you this. How many of you think these 4 steps are easy? Okay. How many of you think these 4 steps are hard? Let me tell you something. If you're living these 4 steps with integrity, and life, my friends, and life doesn't bring you to your knees in tears, you're not living all in. And here's why. Because the strongest steel has to go through the hottest fire. Let me say that again. The strongest steel has to go through the hottest fire. It begs a big question. Why? Why make the choice every single day to pay the price? Why make the choice every single day to sacrifice? Why make the choice every day to jump into the fire? Here's why. Because every single one of you matter. Because every single one of you deserve to have your story told. And because there's someone sitting in the audience listening to your story who just needs that spark from your story. Who just needs someone to give them the courage that they've been looking for to jump into their fire. And so I want to leave you with this. When you honor your values, you become valuable. If you're someone who honors the value of discipline, what would your business look like? What would your skill set look like 12 months from now if you made the decision to read a sales and marketing book every single week for the next 12 months? If you're somebody who honors the value of consistency, what would your business look like? What would your skill set look like if you made the decision in your consistency plan to shoot 1 video every single week that talked about what you were learning in the book you were reading? What would your business look like if you made the decision to honor what I believe is the highest value you can honor, which is wisdom? And what if you made the decision in your wisdom plan to do what I did when I left my company? Within 24 hours, I was on Facebook. I saw an ad. It was Greg Gomez. I bought the product. The next day, I was on the phone with him, and I had $5,000 down to join his program. Why? Because I know if you want to be a lion, You got to train with lions. How many of you here think I have an unfair advantage over 99% of people out in the world because I've got Greg Gomez in the trenches of my life with me, fighting with me and for me in my business every single day and every single week? How many of you think I have an advantage? Right? If you want to be a lion, you got to train with lions. So let me leave you with this. When you honor your values, you become valuable. So what do you value? I love you guys. I believe in you guys. Peace.